Hello everybody, this is FIX Games, and welcome back to Crossout. And I'm just gonna say I'm going to stop editing because, well, for things that do not have to be edited, so you will still occasionally get like a montage from me, but editing just like takes so damn long that I do not have time for it. And I mean, I can, especially with the videos that I'm gonna do now, I will be able to just talk while in queue, so the queue doesn't really matter. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be a little bit of a sore subject, I would say, like sensitive, because the developers don't really want to talk about this. It feels like it, but I feel it really has to be addressed. So today we're going to be talking about the sEaLcLuBbInG and matchmaking subject. And this is going to be a part of a mini series called How to Fix Crossout. So if you want to submit things for like problems you see in the game, and you want to see like my thoughts on them and how I would fix them, please go to the Discord, which you can find in the description below, and then you can join the conversation there. About you can discuss the things I talk about in this video and on the other videos in their respective comments, as always. But let's get into it. So with the of course sEaLcLuBbInG, of course the permit at like using high tier weapons at lower tiers, and people are really complaining a lot about those things. And that was actually a really bad match, getting hit in the gas generator underneath here. So a lot of people seen that like Harvester at 2500 power score, Hurricanes on hovers at like 3500 power score, and they're crying out, ban epics at 3000 power score or less, and ban legendaries at 4000 power score or less. So of course this is actually built just above 3000 power score, so I'm actually would be still being illegal boundaries here with the gas generator. But I'm gonna tell you guys, this build is gonna be worse in terms of like strength than some legendaries at this tier, because you guys are saying, oh, I see 2 legendaries at this tier, and they are trashing my ass, like they're just kicking my ass. I can't do anything against it. So because that, all legendaries must be banned, just because one of them is Degenerate. And I'm just gonna be explaining here. I'm using the Degenerate term over the C term. I'm not like the Z's actually. I'm gonna say, because I actually really hate that other term. So I'll be just using Degenerate. So just because there 2 are Degenerate, they all are Degenerate. They all must be banned. Well, then let's just ask me, if you ban legendaries at this tier, and people start running around with synthesis, they start running around like, again, hovers are epic, so 3000 power score, synthesis hover, factor hover, and everything. Like they're just sitting at 3000 power score. At the minimum requirements, they're just like going 10 power score above that minimum requirement, and they're like, okay, we're good, and nothing really will change. Machine guns, no, be gone. Here you guys can see the raw power of triple junk bow. Even though I did take quite a bit of damage because of machine guns on AI are actually lethal for this thing. But this is just actually this is just a glass cannon. And I think actually glass cannons are not a bad thing for the game. As long as the glass cannon does not lead to like sticking a big gun on a small vehicle. It's a fun thing we all do, right? I mean, wrong button. That's I got another example actually here. Actually, I do not have that example, so I guess I'm just going to be building along the way. So, let's say we are grabbing a very big legendary gun at the same tier as we did just a little moment ago. So you guys going to be, some guys will be crying out sEaLcLuBbInG, but wait until you see what gun I'm grabbing. I'll be grabbing a Mandrake. So 3040 power score, we got enough power score left to just grab a large ammo pack and throw it into a battle. So you guys saying this is absolutely degenerate. It will always get 3 or more kills. It absolutely wipes the enemy team and it will utterly dominate. So it must be banned because it is a legendary. Not really. This is just like example of a good glass cannon. And like Harvester would be an example of a bad glass cannon. And this is all because of a few things that just snowball out of control together. First up is Armour. Armour does do really little in this game. You see Armour a lot at high tier because you're just adding up anyways, you're just going to the limit and you will not be holding back. So that's where there's a lot of Armour. Of course, glass cannons become relatively less effective because if there is more armor, because then your own lower health will become more and more noticeable. And with that, you are like harvesters. Again, how much harvesters do we see at top tier versus that degenerate thing at this tier? Like, Hurricane is another weapon that you see less at high tier than at low tier. And that's all just because of armor, because they just become less efficient at the higher tiers because they take too long to do damage. Harvester takes too long to dig through a lot of armor, so they hardly get used at top tier. So first up, I want to make armor more efficient across all tiers. Lower the power score, increase the health. That's a pretty important thing to do. And that was a really nasty hit there. Damn. But yeah, like, if you increase armor, then people take a longer time, so glass cannons will naturally become weaker because it will take longer to kill people normally. That missile can't do nothing against me. That shotgun is probably gonna end up killing me. Run away. If we can. The 24 damage. I did my work. So yeah, again, this is this is a enough piece of garbage, to be honest. Compare that, like, again, armor not being efficient. As I said, snowballing out of control. Gun health. This is a glass cannon. If you increase armor effectiveness, this thing will not care, because its armor is a BC-17 Tsunami. 746 points of durability means that this thing's health frontally is about 750 plus the 250 from the overall cabin and overall health. So that will total up to around 1000 health by frontal, although it is already disabled at 750 because of the gun being shot off. So how do we fix that issue as well? Gun health relative to armor. So let's say you add more armor, and let's just say, like, we're role playing a little bit here. Let's say because you're adding armor absolutely everywhere, like fenders, whatever. Wouldn't you also add some armor plates on your gun? Come on, like, would you only build around your gun? No, you would incorporate your gun as part of the armor layout. And if you have more armor, your guns would naturally get more health. So let's say if the Tsunami had, let's say 350 to 400 health on a vehicle without anything else. But then you start throwing on armor and armor and armor, and it will end up being around 1000 health. Then there is more reason to play a heavy tank already, because your guns will survive longer. They will be less, in comparison, high tier players will notice that their tsunamis will be less likely to shut off, while lower tier tsunami users will notice that their guns get shut off easier. And that results to, naturally, tsunami users starting to use more armor to make up for that reduced health, and that will lead to an increase in power score and a decrease in low tier glass cannons. So that is like part of a fix, and overall there's like effectiveness of weapons at low tier versus high tier. At high tier, you never see a harvester. I'm actually going into the harvester specifically, well, even though I dislike going into the specific parts for these subjects. Harvester is really good at low tier because it eats away at a gorilla or whatever else cabin you're using. I'm using gorilla air because it is even lower power score than it just cuts an additional 90 power score off a normal like huntsman, 250, 160. What else do you need? Anyways, it just eats away. And why is that? Actually, because how the perk and the initial damage works. So you have a pretty good overall damage level, and you get an additional boost if you're in contact longer. Being in contact longer only happens if you're facing an armored enemy. So if a really light enemy will pretty much instantly die and will not really be able to power you up much. So there was already been put like a little bit of thought into like we need to make the harvester effective high tier. So longer time contact is already like kind of a way in the right direction, but of course like perks are kind of weird, and if we want to get a little bit more realistically, I suggest the following rework. Give it a perk-ish thing that basically says it does increase damage against non-functional armor parts, but in return, and that boost would actually be pretty big. But in return, its damage against functional parts would be decreased. So with that, the Hurricane Harvester would have a longer time to kill against the bear cabin because how the bear cabin will do less damage to it. But if it is a very big tough build, the Harvester would have a relatively lower time to kill compared to a normal weapon because it chews through the armor really efficiently. And with that, again, natural way of how things snowball out of control, because they are more effective against armor and become less effective they at lower tiers, they will naturally start going up a tier. I mean, like, and why did I make a screenshot there accidentally? But let's say, like, okay, we have to make this thing 4,000 power score or whatever. We never said anything about using 2 legendaries. So you ban 4,000 power score legendaries, right? Well, we just bring it to 5,500 and we bring 2. This thing is actually not too degenerate because it actually really lacks protection around the cabin. And it does flip over quite a lot. So I'm actually going to be thinking out this thing to show a little bit more of gameplay because otherwise you guys will be bored anyways. So yeah. Anyways, it would just move up the issue if you would do normal changes. And in the meanwhile, other legendaries will just get hurt more and more and more. And also, like, some people just want to be a glass cannon user. I'm actually one of those kind of people. Like, I enjoy having little health, but having a really big gun. I am, like, kill people fast, but die fast. Because I'm relatively, like, good at playing carefully, it was actually a really rewarding playstyle for me. So, that's why I'm actually playing these kind of styles, occasionally. While other people just enjoy being tanks. And there comes actually another issue in with Armour again, in that taking shells, taking hits, distracting the enemy is not rewarding, like at all. We do not get points in this game for taking damage. For example, War Thunder, you actually do get points for bouncing and absorbing shells, and because of that, like War Thunder does have like a group of really heavy tank users that just absorb the shells, distract the enemy, waste their ammunition, and so on, as a support role. And where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Okay, you're going here. Crap. I missed. Sliding around in this map is so horrible. So yeah, like, was that too bad? Like, okay, I did a really big punch, but I died pretty much instantly. Glass cannons are really not the problem. Like, if the vehicle in comparison just has more health and less damage, or vice versa, doesn't really change anything. Because a heavy build will take longer to kill, but they will also take longer to kill you. So that will be balanced. Glass cannon, same thing. Glass cannons just change the time to kill to a shorter duration. And as long as it counts for them too, it's just fine. And again, like, that's why we all just to fix the glass cannon sEaLcLuBbInG issue, we have to change things to lower, like change the armor, change everything. This is also an example. This Denselot dude has 3 repairs at this 5500 power score. And at this power score, those guns are really not that effective anymore. And hello. Sliding along here is perfectly fine. But that guy and some other people made the complaint like, my guns are not affecting anything, but I still die pretty easily. This game is shit. So let's say you're a guy that has like thrown on all the armor he has because you're a low level player, do not know what to do. You're throwing everything you got. So everything you got leads to your short build having 2500 power score. Shorts are not made to keep up against people that are 2500 power score. So naturally you will have a bad time. It will be a some people say like a quite emotional event of constantly being blown up. And it will just not be fun. Yeah, a game is just being enjoyable after all, so we have to make sure it can be enjoyable for everyone while keeping up the balance. Again, so I'll just recap here. This is gonna be the last match. Rework armor to be have being more efficient. Have taking shots give points as a score, like because like they already implemented it with shields, but I just have to also do it with normal armor, so that actual tank players can be a thing. So like instead of only being glass cannons, because like all the things that people they complain about are glass cannons, and then rework armor to boost weapon health if you have a lot of them, and then in return reduce the base health of a vehicle of a weapon. Then also have weapons that are becoming a scourge at lower tiers, rework them and make them more efficient at high tiers against armor, and make them less efficient against cabins in some way. And perhaps even just like further increase the power score of weapons as a whole. And again, like reworking armor, making that more efficient is kind of the same thing. And then also, of course, we also have the thing at higher power score. Actually, just kind of changing subject here, and that higher higher power scores have like 7,000 to 15,000 power score or whatever. So like as soon as you're at 7,000 power score, you're at top tier. And people are like suggesting create brackets, and then let's just say we have a power score bracket from 4,500 power score to 5,500 power score. So this is 5,465. That's 35 power score under that until 5,500 bracket. So actually, I would say that was less better, but since I'm changing topic here, I'll actually be including this a little bit. So let's say 5,500 power score. It'll be a limit. This thing will be a top dog of that matchmaking bracket, just because it's so close to the top without actually being crossing that top. So there will be some people, of course, complaining my 4,600 power score vehicle will always get a matchup against 5,500 power score vehicles. But if you learn the game, you learn to build, and you realize like, okay, I will just stay at 4,500 power score until I can build 5,000 to 5,500. Then I'll go to 5,000 to 5,500, and that will also provide a build challenge, because like this build, you could try to upgrade. You cannot really upgrade the armor protection without crossing the 500, that 500 power score limit to hitting that next bracket. And if you hit the next bracket, you might as well add an entire 1,000 power score to it until you hit that 6,500 power score matchmaking limit. I'm gonna be sitting here because I do not want that missile to go in my face. Turrets. So I would actually think matchmaking brackets would be a good idea. because matchmaking brackets would lead to overall better balance. And the question just is, how big should they be? And these are my proposed matchmaking brackets: 0 to 2500. So 2500, of course. Ouch! Cannon shot. The 2500 power score being like a pretty solid power score level, and then 25 to 35, 35 to 45, 45 55. So like a lot of 1000 power score brackets until we had 7.5. Then we go from 7.5 to 9.0, or actually now 6.5 to 8.0, 6.5 to 8.0. So 6.5 8.0 would actually like 1500 power score, so it starts stretching up a little bit. And then from 9.0 upwards, so to like 11,000 maybe, and like 9,000 power score, you're fine. You're a big vehicle. You'll be able to keep up with those 11Ks. Like we don't really see much above 11,000 power score, and that's just like power score inflation, which I think you should not do, guys. Just to be clear, you should not inflate your power score to hit a higher bracket or something. But also just like I think to consider it is like there are currently no increased rewards to higher tiers. So because of that, grind becomes longer and longer every time. So to even more like incentivize people to go to the higher tiers, increasing scrap and other rewards at the higher tiers to reduce the time to grind is actually a thing that I would consider. Like let's say 0 to 2500 has the current speed, and then to like 40 until 4500 all those brackets have like the current speed, and then like the 5500 to 6500 and 6500 to 800 ish like brackets up there get like 120%, 125%, and then like the upper top dogs get like 150%. So like you or like emphasize to hit the higher tiers. I mean, if you want to have fun, you will not be bothered by the grind anyways. So then you'll be fine to take a glass cannon, go at the lower tier just to have fun. But like currently, people are just taking the most effective way for them to grind, and a lot of those builds are the sEaLcLuBbInG style builds. And again, always remember, people, if you try to ban something, people jump on to the next best thing. So you'll ban X part, they will just go on to the part Y that is just like one little piece less strong. And like you will see a meta shift, but then the meta shift as soon as they like discover, they solve the new meta, you're right back at the start again. And that's it. I think that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed watching, and see you guys all later. Bye, guys.